What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. Happy to be with you talking another week of golf here. And we've got a major championship this week. So a little bit, still a little bit strange in the month of May to be talking about a major. It just feels a little different, even though it's been, 4 or 5 years now that the PGA Championship's been contested in May, but happy to be talking about it and having a big tournament to discuss here in what used to be kind of a lull in the calendar. So Justin Banzoon, aka STL Cardinals 84, alongside Derek Farnsworth, aka Notorious. And Noto, what's going on? We had a birdie fest last week, as expected, at the Byron Nelson, and KH Lee is becoming the Doug Gim at the Players. It's KH Lee at the Byron Nelson. So another win for him, and certainly unexpected on my end anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go back to back, even for the elites, and so for KH Lee to do it, certainly impressive, especially since he put together 9 under on Sunday to get the job done. A lot of big names were up there too. I thought one of them was gonna end up getting the job done, but yeah, congrats to him. It kind of reminds me of who's the guy that won Bay Hill back to back?
Recently?
No, he's just he like missed every cut and then won Bay Hill back to back. I can't remember his name.
Well, now I gotta find it because that rings 0 bells for me. But I'm sure I got it. I got the Matt Every. That's go. Right.
The Matt Every. Open. Yeah.
So 2 years after Tiger Woods won it back to back, but he doesn't count.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. Just kind of a random name winning it back to back. So yeah, congrats to him. Good to see Spieth out there again. His pre-shot routine is still something to marvel at, but man, he's swinging it really well right now. And if you look, he's a top 25 driver of the ball. Like when he was in his prime, he was mostly irons and putting and around the green. So with him driving the ball well, certainly going to be in play this week. I'm sure we'll talk about him. And Zander, I mean, huge back 9 on Friday to make the cut on the number, and then goes 65-61. So that's going to skyrocket his ownership this week as well. But what are some of your takeaways from last week?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that impacts ownership. You had Schauffele with a really good round on Sunday. You had Matsuyama with a really good round on Sunday. You had Spieth with a really solid week. And then you had Neiman, who went from having a chance to win to shooting like a 74 in a tournament where everybody's making birdies. He shoots a 74 on Sunday and drops from basically inside the top 5 to 25th. So, how much are people going to react to those final rounds? It's a major week, so the pricing is a little bit loose. We've had quite a few withdrawals. Paul Casey, shout out to him. He didn't wait till Thursday morning to withdraw this time, so that's good. So he's out, but it just some of the leaderboard movement with how many birdies there were available on that course, guys shooting 62, 63s, and skyrocketing up the leaderboard, and other guys, just shooting 65, 66 every day and just popping a 20 under type of number up there. It's going to be a different type of course this week, though. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting with the guys that played last week, how that's going to translate over to this week. But I think the biggest takeaway for me was guys that had injury concerns that maybe you were a little bit worried about. Matsuyama would be one of them. Mito Pereira was another one that we talked about last week on the show. 2 guys that had really good weeks that maybe you can go in and say, okay, they seem to be fully healthy and ready to go, and maybe you're not as concerned about their health, at least headed into this week.
Yeah, and to your point, there were a couple guys that missed the cut that I like this week that's hopefully going to lower their ownership. Will Zalatorius, we talked about him a lot, that he loves hard golf courses. He says it himself. He just doesn't and he's not at his best when it's going to be 25 under par. And then Sam Burns missed the cut too, and he's been playing some great golf the last year or so. So definitely going to be interesting to see how ownership moves throughout the week. But yeah, I mean, I hate these birdie fests. Your guy gets a bogey and it feels like an 8 just because it drops him 15 spots in the leaderboard. Shoot 500 and doesn't even move the needle whatsoever. So I'm definitely ready for a tougher course this week.
I was excited last week. I had the field 6 of 6 percentage was 9. I had 20% 6 of 6 lineups. I had 35% 5 of 6 lineups. I'm like, oh man, birdie fest, great week to be overweight on 6 of 6 and 5 of 6 lineups. And I think I only moved up $100 on the weekend. It was still an okay week, but felt like you had a shot with some of those. And but I had no Lee and no Spieth, so it ended up being a little empty. But those are the weeks where you want to have as many 6 of 6 lineups as possible. This week, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. You're neutral. I'm kind of neutral on the birdie fest. I don't hate them as much as some other people do, but I've had good success with some of them in the past, so maybe that skews my judgment a little bit. But I didn't end up getting anything at the top. I think 110th or something, and the $15 ended up being my best one. But it's nice to see some of those guys playing with confidence. And you mentioned Zalatorius and Burns. I believe both missed the cut on the number, one birdie short. And Zalatorius, I mean, he left a ton of strokes out there on the greens, which is kind of silly me for trusting him in a birdie fest. Noted, I think at this point, I've tried that a couple times and it hasn't worked. So yeah, play him on the hard golf courses. Maybe play him this week instead of last week. But bygones are bygones. Too late to change last week now. What else did you take away from that tournament last week?
That's pretty much it. I'm ready to get into the fun stuff.
All right. Noto does not want to talk about the Birdie Fest anymore. We shall move along because, again, we got a major this week. The PGA Championship kind of gets a bad rap. The app is not good. The shot tracking is never very good. So keep your expectations low if you're new to this tournament, if you're new to the shot tracker data, or maybe you started up with the Masters and thought, oh my goodness, this app is glorious. The PGA Championship app just sucks. So we're getting that out of the way. We're getting the bad news out of the way right now. It's not good. Maybe we'll be greatly, surprised, and it will be a massive improvement this year, but I'm not holding my breath on it. But it's still a major, and that still means that there's lots of money to be won in DFS. So that's what matters. But the sweat experience, I guess a lot of people tend to dislike this major compared to all the others. And it seems to be a pretty global sentiment. You don't really get a lot of disagreement on the topic. So where do you stand on your like or dislike for the PGA Championship as a major tournament?
I think it's a lot better now that it's, second in rotation. When it was the last one, it kind of felt like everyone was, there was the Open Championship, and then I think it was the U.S. Open, and then it kind of felt like, that was the peak of the season, and this one was kind of thrown in at the end. So given the fact that it's second, a little bit more excited than usual, I think the course is going to be awesome. The app, though, yeah, like you mentioned, don't have very much expectations for that. The U.S. Open app's pretty bad. And the Open Championship app, if I remember correctly, you don't even get shot tracker. You just get the scores, which is just archaic. I mean, come on. So yeah, maybe this one's a little bit better.
The Euro Tour has implemented on the European Tour events. They've implemented a little shot tracker on their leaderboards now, and it's like the PGA Tour leaderboards circa 15 years ago. You should look at it sometime if you haven't. It's
good one?
Just, huh?
The good one that we used to love?
No. It's not that one. It's kind of like, actually, it kind of looks like the PGA Championship one, to be honest, where you just see a little dot, and but it's grainy. It's almost like you're playing an Atari or something. It's very hard to describe. You got to check it out if you haven't seen it. But so maybe they'll bring that to the Open Championship. Who knows? In any case, yeah, the majors outside of the Masters are kind of a letdown for the live shot tracking. But you can't win as much money with some of the other tournaments than you can for this one. So it's a trade-off, I guess. But you mentioned the course, Southern Hills. If you're interested, I watched about a 15-minute YouTube video this afternoon. Golf Digest did like a flyover video with explanations of, all the holes and the shaping and the, course layout and stuff. If you're not familiar with the course, it really is pretty informative. And basically what you get from it is every single hole is surrounded by hazards. There's water and some runoff areas. It's a tough course for chipping. A lot of the greens are surrounded by bunkers, pretty much all of them. And it's very long for a par 70 course. It's over 7,500 yards. Both of the par fives are going to play to 630 plus. And we're also, as of right now, expecting wind the first couple of days. So, I mean, it almost feels like this could have a U.S. Open feel to it. Southern Hills hasn't hosted since the PGA Championship back in 2007. 15 years ago was won by Tiger Woods, and Tiger's in the field again this week. So from what you've seen so far, what do you make of the course?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I haven't done the flyover video yet. I'm definitely going to watch that tonight. But I just went on the PGA Championship app, and then looked at the pictures of the course and the overviews of each hole. And like you mentioned, I think the water is going to come into play. From my count, it's going to be in play on 7 of the tee shots and on 13 of the approach shots. Officially, I think water is in play on 15 of the holes. So it's definitely going to come into play, and a lot of the little streams on the course, they go right along the holes or they go through the fairways. So it's not like just errant shots are going to end up finding these hazards. And the par fives, very long. It's going to be tough for anyone to get there in two. Maybe Bryson if he ends up playing, maybe Rory, somebody like that. But definitely going to be 3-shot holes for most of the field. And it's very long. I think that definitely plays into the Bombers' hands, but at the same time, with only 2 par fives and with them probably not being reachable, does that negate distance a little bit?
I think it does. I mean, from what I've read, it does set up as a course that's kind of a second shot course, but I've also seen a lot of quotes prioritizing play around the greens. Basically, you got to be good at everything, which is always the case on these harder courses. But there's water around the greens, and I can't remember whether it was like the second hole, maybe second or third hole. One of them has, like, if you chip over the green, then it rolls right into the creek behind the green. Like I just envision Victor Hovland making like a 10, being greenside in 2 on one of these holes. He's going to end up with a 10. Like I am a bit worried about the golfers that have the chipping issues. I think that could be a factor here. So, I don't know. I'm not emphasizing distance that much, though I can easily see the argument for it. Just with the par fives not being reachable. I don't know. It's a really interesting question. I think you could ask, 10 different people and get quite a few different responses on that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I kind of like the all around game. That's pretty much how I always attack these majors. In terms of the greens themselves, they are pretty small, 5,200 square feet on average. And then there's a lot of shaved runoffs, and you're not going to get easy up and downs like you mentioned, but you're going to see a lot of golfers that just miss the green. It's going to roll to 40 to 50 yards. So I don't know if that negates around the green, because it's going to be a little bit unique in terms of the skill set needed here to get up and down. But I do think around the green is definitely going to be coming to play this week. So those guys, with the chipping yips like Hovland, they do scare me a little bit. I would rather take a bad putter than, a bad chipper of the ball this week, I think. And there's not a lot of trees. The fairway is 40 yards wide on average. So that's second to only Kapalua, just extremely wide fairways. So you can definitely play the bomber angle if you want. There are going to be a lot of long irons as well, especially because a lot of those streams, like I mentioned, they run through the fairways. So you're going to see golfers make sure that they're short of those hazards. So that could negate distance a little bit too. But overall, just looking for guys that are good majors, guys that, don't have a lot of weaknesses in their game.
All right, let's go ahead and dig in. We've got a deep field as usual for a major. Again, we've had a few withdrawals, Russell Knox, Paul Casey, a lot of these guys, they withdrew well in advance of the tournament, but we had pricing released a little earlier than normal for this week. So just make sure you don't have any withdrawals in your lineups. And Scheffler, I mean, he's been the man all year, had a rough start last week, but still managed to climb his way up the leaderboard when he could have easily packed it in. So Scheffler, John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, and Rory are your, again, as usual, 5, 10K plus options on DraftKings. but we do have the deeper field than normal. So how do you handle those five-figure guys this week?
There are usually a couple that I can take out of my player pool with some confidence, but I don't really see anybody that I hate this week up here. You mentioned Scheffler. I mean, he's obviously been in great form. And then, this is his favorite course. And apparently he played a practice round here, I think it was last week, and shot something crazy low. So he likes the place. He's playing better than anyone in the world right now. He is the most expensive, but he's going to be probably low owned again this week. So I'll definitely play some Scheffler. I don't think I'll prioritize him in single entry. Rahm's coming off the win. We know his track record in majors. He doesn't have a major weakness, at least in his long-term skill set. He has struggled around the green a little bit this year, but I'm not too worried about that. You have JT, who's coming off of a nice finish. He's probably the best in the field, tee to green, at least one of them, and his putting's gotten a little bit better this year. Morikawa shows up for majors, and then Rory, I don't know what to do with Rory, but I don't have a strong take. I'd probably pick Rahm of the five, but yeah. Can you sell me on one over the other four?
I mean, it's usually Thomas for me. That probably stands again. I mean, he played well last week, fell just a couple birdies shy in a birdie fest, but 4 real consistent rounds. Stats look really good. We're splitting hairs here, but Thomas, I like, and I don't know, Morikawa, I'm a fan, and he always shows up for the majors, but I don't know. I worry about the short game with him a little bit this week. So Morikawa, if I had to X somebody reluctantly, is probably him, but not that I absolutely dislike him. So Thomas 1, Morikawa 5, and you can mix and match the other 3. I think is kind of where I'm at on him.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement on Morikawa. He just never rates out that well for me, and a few times a year it ends up biting me in a big way, typically at the majors. So, I mean, it doesn't feel good fading the best iron player in the world, but I'm kind of with you on that.
Oki in the YouTube chat says he'll be there on Sunday to watch Taylor Gooch win it. So he's already made his
still feeling the burn of Gooch last week.
Yeah, it was a few guys there that tanked some lineups last week, and he was one of them. All right. I mean, same boat with Hovland. He's the next guy at 9,900. Like, Hovland worries me more than Morikawa with the short game. So he's the one. If it beats me, it beats me, I guess. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to play Hovland this week.
Yeah, I mean, so the argument for those two is that, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the pitch shots are going to come from 30 plus yards because of the shaved runoff areas. So maybe that just negates, around the green play, and it's as this a whole new ball game. But I'm with you. I mean, yeah, I maybe play those two together in the lineup. I think that could be an interesting strategy. They have very similar skill sets. Hovland's a little bit better putter. Morikawa a little bit better with the iron. So, maybe you can make a lineup or two with those two together. But I'm kind of with you. I think Cam Smith is one of the more intriguing plays of the week. He missed the cut after, kind of blowing up at the Masters on Sunday in that back 9, but the ball striking was pretty good at the RBC Heritage, and we haven't seen him since. So don't know where he's been at, but historically pretty good in the majors. Spieth's going to be the super chalk once again. He was pretty chalky at the Masters and kind of let a lot of people down, but then he won the RBC, played great last week, as I mentioned.
Oh yeah, the steam factor is just it's full bore with Spieth right now. And even me, like even Mr. Anti-Spieth here, like I can't make that. Like the argument for years I had against him was that he was hitting it all over the place off the tee, but now he's not doing that. Like you mentioned off the top, he's driving the ball better than he ever has. So I mean, if the short game is still there, well, what's the weakness? So it's hard for me to just hop aboard when he suddenly becomes massive chalk, but I can't bang the drum against it anymore. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with him myself this week because it's just tough when he suddenly becomes the second most popular guy or the most popular guy on the board to just, all of a sudden fall in line and go with all the sheep, if you will.
Yeah, I thought I was done with him after the Masters, but here he is again. Has a chance for the career Grand Slam, so he's going to get all those storylines talked about. So, yeah, he's going to be very popular, but I mean, I do like him. The driving's good. The irons are good. Good bank grass guy, too. He's typically not very good on Bermuda, but these greens are bent, so I like that as well. Moving down, I do like Zander. I like Zander anytime you get him in a major. I know he didn't perform that well at the Masters, but won the team event T5 last week with the huge weekend. And I just look at his numbers. His top 5 and top 10% rate at the majors over the last 6 years is second only to Brooks Koepka. So a guy that just shows up at the majors. He hasn't won one yet, but has that complete skill set. And the same can be said about Cantlay in terms of their skill set. The difference is Cantlay just hasn't shown up at the majors. He only has a 6% top 5 rate compared to Zander's 42. So, 7X in terms of their top 5% rates. But I like both of them. And
I mean, if you just took the 2022 results, like Cantlay's been the best golfer this year, not named Scheffler.
Yeah.
And, and there's what, 12 guys, 12 or so priced ahead of Cantlay the way he's played. I don't know. For better or worse, I mean, eventually, if the result's going to come in a major, like this is the time for it all to come together with the way he's played because he's been locked in all year.
Agree 100%. And he's a guy, I don't think he's going to be the most popular in this range. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I think Spieth's just going to soak up so much that everyone else is kind of going to come down a little bit. So I agree with you. I like Cantlay. I like Zander. Going to be off of DJ. Just hasn't shown a ton. And then Hideki's a tough one for me. Just played great last week. I don't know what are you doing with Hideki?
Yeah, I'm in on Hideki. I put him as I think I put him in our survey. I just did that before the show as my favorite tournament play. The health was the only question, and the health. I mean, he showed last week he's ready to go. He had the best round on Sunday, one of the best rounds on Sunday last week. Stats are solid across the board. Obviously, we know he can do it in a major, and the price isn't outrageous. So I'm in on Hideki this week. I feel pretty good about him.
Yeah, my only problem is I like a lot of the guys in the 9K. So single entry, I think I'm actually going to start here. Take 2 of them. I do that a lot, but I think that's an interesting strategy. So you don't have to dip into the 6s too much.
Yeah, and if that was me, I'd probably end up on some combination of Spieth, Schauffele, Matsuyama, Cantlay. Pick your 2 couple favorites in there. I think that's a fine way to start a lineup. You might even be able to get 3 of them, depending on where you start. So solid range as usual.
What about Brooks at 9K and no ownership?
Yeah, and it's a major. I mean, it feels like every major we're talking about. He's hurt, he's not healthy, and then he shows up. Then he shows up for the major. So I don't know. I'm probably off of him, but it feels like it's going to burn me like it does every time.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I'll just bet him outright. I mean, he's 45-1 on some of the books. So, I mean, they're certainly trying to tempt you into betting him. But then I just look at his numbers. I mean, he's missed the cut in 4 of his last 7 and 6 of his last 9. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, but then you look at his major record and he's easily the best of anyone.
It's like a different tour. It's like he's playing a different tour when he plays the majors. It's crazy.
So I don't know. At 8% ownership, it certainly doesn't take a lot to get there.
As we move into the 8Ks, I get Trey, ownership guy. Trey did a great job of getting us projected ownership numbers really early. And I got to say, I did not project Shane Lowry as the highest owned guy in the field. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to disagree with Trey. This could be just, bias on my part, but it's not. I mean, if he was 8K, I'd see it. 8,700. I don't know. Is it the narrative that this course has a linksy feel to it? And we know Lowry obviously has experience on links courses. Is it just he's been really good and he's 8,700, or is our ownership off, or where do you stand on Lowry?
Well, I think when chalky players tend to play well when they're chalky, it just seems like it's easy to go back to the well for everyone. I mean, he was second at the Honda where he was popular, 13th at the Players, 12th at the Valspar, 3rd at the Masters, 3rd at RBC. I mean, anytime he's been chalky, he's just, crushed. So I certainly get it. The irons have been as good as pretty much anyone over the last couple of months. He's a major winner. He won the Open Championship. He's not overly expensive. So I certainly get the ownership.
Well, I think I kind of buried the lead there, but I think I'm probably underweight in GPPs. Simply because there's so many options. I mean, it's a deep field, and if he's going to be 20+%, I don't know. I'll take my chances. I think he's been running a little hot. So Again, we talked about Zalatorius on hard courses. Burns burned a lot of people. No pun intended last week. You've got Berger, you've got Niemann in this range. So, plenty of big names. So everybody knows I like Zalatorius. I'll go back to him. You talked about him a little bit earlier, but where you stand on kind of this 8.5K range.
Yeah, love Zalatorius. You just look at his major track record. Been awesome ever since, was it last year or the year before when he played the first PGA Championship, I think. Just a great ball striker, pretty good around the greens. The putter's obviously bad, but it's a lot different when you're, putting 25 feet for birdie instead of someone else trying to get up and down. So I think his ball striking is certainly going to be on display this week on a difficult course. I'm fine with Lowry. I'm probably underweight like you are. Love Daniel Berger. If he's going to be half the ownership as Lowry, he's got a very similar skill set. You look at his numbers at the majors outside of the Masters, and he's been very good. So he just can't figure out Augusta National. The last time he teed up was at RBC, gained 8.5 strokes ball striking. We know the putter can be good. We know he's good around the greens. So I like Berger. And then
I wonder if it's just because we haven't seen him a whole lot. He just hasn't played as much as some of these other guys.
Yeah, that's true. What are you doing with Burns and Niemann? I can't decide on those two.
I like them both. I think you get pretty similar. At Burns, maybe a little more risk reward, but I like Niemann. I mean, it just seems like he's been trending in the right direction. He's a little bit cheaper on DraftKings at 8,500. So, yeah, right now they're both in my pool, but maybe slightly into Niemann if I had to pick one of the two.
Yeah, Niemann similar to Lowry in that he's been popular every week and he continues to, grind out top 25. So it's hard not to go back there if you've been playing him every week.
Yeah, and again, in case you missed some of these withdrawals, Sungjae is out, so don't play him. And then the bottom part of the 8K range, we've got Bryson, the unknown with Bryson. We've got the unknown with Tiger Woods. We've got the social media darling Max Homa, who mentioned that he, his first 9 holes today is one of the favorite golf courses he's ever played. That narrative will start to make the rounds. We've got Hatton. We've got the always chalky when he's around 8K Corey Connors, and we've got the withdrawal risk is back. Louis Oosthuizen at 8K. Really interesting lower end of the range. Where do you stand on these guys? Can you play any Tiger? Always a topic of conversation.
I don't think I'm going to play a lot of Tiger. I'm probably going to do the same thing as I did at the Masters. I'm going to bet him to make the cut. And that was an awesome sweat.
What are those odds now? Have you looked at those this week yet? Or
so the only one that was out was FanDuel, and it was minus 160. So I mean, not great, but not terrible. We were getting positive odds at the Masters in a much smaller field. So I'm hoping the books, the other books, will post theirs, and then it'll get a little more competitive. But I just don't want to invest a bunch of money into him. Posting the top 15 or 10, which was probably what you'll need in tournaments. So. Yeah, I'll get some kind of sweat on Tiger because I always do, but probably not going to have a lot in DFS. Although he's the minimum on Yahoo if you want to play him over there, $20, which is interesting. Bahoma, I didn't hear him say that about this being his favorite course. He's been so bad at the majors, but he coming off of the win, I think that makes sense. And then Corey Connors, how do you not play Corey Connors even at high ownership? He seems to play his best when he's chalky in these really stacked fields. So. If I'm picking one guy to be overweight on and one to be underweight on in this range, I'll go under on Lowry and over on Connors. And I'm playing Louis. Got burned by him, but I'm playing Louis at the majors.
Might as well. He can't do any worse than he did for us at the Masters. So I was just bitter because that was the first time I played him in probably like a year. And out he went. So, well, at least he played a few holes, unlike Casey. Another guy that's I'm in on Connors, by the way. I don't have too much interest in a lot of the others in that lower part of the 8K range, live in the 9Ks. Or you can go down into the 7s. Matthew Fitzpatrick, if you're just comparing odds, his odds have the most steam, and his odds are kind of up there with a lot of guys who are priced 500 or 600 higher. Fairways and greens, good on hard courses, etc. The narratives on Fitzpatrick are going to be out there. He'll be chalky. Finau all the way down to 7,900. Cam Young is having a great rookie season. He's at 7,600. Those are the guys looking to kind of get some ownership in the mid to high 7Ks. We talked about Adam Scott last week. He's one of my favorite contrarian plays this week. Stats don't look great. Obviously, we don't see him a ton. You never know the putter, but he did finish 12th here back in 2007, the last time they played the PGA here. So does have some course experience. And at 7,700 in a major at 8%, I'll play some Adam Scott. So Scott, Fitzpatrick, probably my favorites in the mid to high 7Ks. What do you like in there?
Definitely on board with Fitzpatrick, just complete skill set. He gains strokes off the tee, even though he's not a bomber. So he's very pinpoint accurate off the tee. He's gained on approach in 5 or 6 straight. Great short game. Love him. Don't mind the Adam Scott call. He's just so consistent. At this price point, you don't need him to finish in the top 10. If he gives you a top 25, that's probably going to be good enough, at least in not the milli maker. So I do like Adam Scott at 7,700. Webb Simpson, man, I was looking. Props to the golf page, scoresandodds.com. If you guys haven't checked that out, you can sort and it'll show you the best odds of each golfer, for outright bets, top 5 bets, top 20 bets, whatever you want. So you can get the best price anywhere. And Webb Simpson's like 22 to 1 to finish in the top 10 right now. So his odds are just terrible. I can't go there, but that one just really
he's 300 to 1 to win.
Yeah, how wild is that? And I'm not touching him, even at those odds. So it's just weird to see, a guy that he's won a major. He was so consistent, so good for so long, and now just falling off the board. But I like Finau. Anytime you get him on a major, his numbers are all over the place. I don't know what to do with him, but just blindly play him, kind of like Louis. And then Cam Young's another interesting decision point this week. What are you doing with him?
I'm going to eat off the $1 menu or $2 menu at McDonald's for a couple days. I'm going to put the $10 that I save on my lunch on a $10 bet on Webb Simpson to win $3,000. And we'll see where that lands at the end of the week. I've thrown away $10 in significantly worse ways than that before. Cam Young, I mean, the results have been fantastic. Even, his first time playing some courses, he's been great. It's really easy to dismiss him and just say, well, it's a major step up in competition, et cetera, X him out. But I don't know. His odds aren't horrible. He's proven himself. I just think right now he's got a lot of ownership. I think that will make it easy enough for people to talk themselves off of him as the week goes on. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at a lower number by the time Thursday morning arrives. Still on the fence. I mean, I certainly don't think you have to play him, but it's hard to argue against him the way he's been going and the upside that he's shown. He's 7,600.
I've only played him heavily in one tournament, and it was a Masters, and he missed the cut. So I'll get him wrong. So if you are waffling on Cam Young, text me or send me a message on Wednesday night, and I'll tell you what I'm doing.
I didn't play him at the Masters, so I'm on house money.
So you want to do pretty the opposite. Popular. Yeah, opposite of me on that one. I do like Tommy Fleetwood, though. He's been playing some good golf. T59 last week doesn't look great, but he did gain 5.7 strokes ball striking. And he's got a sneaky record at the majors. In his last 21 starts, he's made 81% of the cuts and finished in the top 5%, 14% of the time. That's better than anyone other than Bubba at 77 or lower.
A couple things. Noto mentioned Scores and Odds. Check us out, scoresandodds.com, the number one place for all things sports betting, part of the Rotogrinders network. We've got daily expert picks, analysis tools to make you a better sports bettor. Noto has made like $6 million on the NBA playoffs. He won a bunch of bets in a row until the Suns happened last night, and still not sure. My free bet at the beginning of the season that DraftKings offered me, a $500 free bet on any NBA future, and I got my Suns money in at 25 to 1 to win the NBA title for $8,500. And it all came crashing down with like a 50-point loss or whatever it ended up being to the Mavs last night. So I was very disappointed. But Noto's hit a bunch of NBA bets this month. Looking to keep it rolling. Maybe we'll hit some golf outright winners this week. So check us out at scoresandodds.com. But kudos on the NBA run there.
Jeez. Yeah, they ruined a few of my parlays the other night. So I did not see that outcome.
I didn't either. Most people did not, but it happened. 27 points in the first half. So disappointing end of the year for the Phoenix fans, myself included, thanks to financial incentive to root for them, but didn't work out. All right, let's move to the lower end of the 7K range. You've got some guys that have just been very hit or miss. Taylor Gooch let people down last week. Jason Kochrack has been up and down. Gary Woodland's been up and down. You haven't seen much lately from, Luke List and Bubba Watson. So I don't know. Start to get a little bit of a dead zone here. Struggling veterans, Rose, Reed, at the bottom part of the 7K range. And this is just kind of a tough zone to peg. You got anybody that stands out in here for you?
The model loves Russell Henley. And if distance isn't a huge, factor this week, you got to like him. One of the better iron players in the field. Good on and around the greens, decent track record at the majors, 80% cut rate, and he's 7,200. I do think that ownership's going to come up because he's one of those guys that always pops in the stat models. But I like him quite a bit. I don't think Jason Kochrack is a bad play. He's starting to show a little bit of life. He's a bomber and a putter, and the irons are starting to turn around. Played well last week. You made the same case for Gary Woodland on a bomber track. So I'll go back to him. He's been very volatile, so I wouldn't use him in single entry or cash games, but a guy that just finishes a ton of top tens on his resume this year. And Gary Woodland, he obviously won the U.S. Open at Pebble a few years ago. And then, I don't love a lot of other guys. What about you?
Yeah, the lower end of the 7K range is same for me. I don't like a whole lot. Good case for Henley there. The one guy that does feel underpriced to me is Noren. I don't know. I mean, he's only 7K. I'm surprised that his odds aren't a little better than they are. I'm surprised the ownership isn't very high, but another T12 last week. He's got like 6 solid finishes this year. He's been, and if the course does play a little linksy, he's got experience there as well. And he's only 7,000. So when you compare it to the form of a lot of these other guys, if you're just looking for a little consistency, Noren's actually shown that, and he tends to be underappreciated a little bit. So I like Noren at 7K.
I like that call a lot. I think I'm going to be tagging him this week as well. One of the better putters in the field, pretty good around the green. And his irons, over the last 2 years, not great. Last 1 year, getting better. And this year, he's been awesome. So 20th in this field, strokes gained approach in 2022. So definitely on board with Noren. And then,
if you look at the full PGA Tour stats for the 2021-2022 season, he's top 15 in both bogey avoidance and scrambling. So if you're emphasizing around the green play or think it's going to play pretty difficult, obviously expecting some wind, I don't know. I think it all lines up pretty well for Noren, especially since you factor in that this is kind of a range where there's not a lot of great plays. So he's my pick in there.
Yep, I agree. A couple guys I'll throw into my MME player pool. Tringali tends to play difficult course as well, which I kind of found that surprising. I thought he was one of the guys that was better at Birdie Fest, but very good on tough tracks. He's only played 4 majors the last 5 years, hasn't been great, but he's been playing a little bit more consistent recently. And then Harold Varner, just completely volatile. You never know what to expect, but he's been good at the majors. And he's got a lot of top tens, in his resume. So similar to Gary Woodland, I kind of like Varner for his upside.
Yeah, he just needs, if he can put 4 rounds together, he's golden. So don't mind that call, particularly in tournaments. And if I
do you know who has the highest cut rate of anyone in the field over the last 18 months in this price range?
I mean, is it Varner after what you mentioned there?
No, he misses a bunch of cuts.
Is it Tom Hoagie?
Banzoon now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it, but I can see it.
So if you want a short game specialist that doesn't miss cuts and a top 40 finish.
If right now, looking at the weather forecast, obviously this can change. We're taping on Monday night, but showing increasing winds on Thursday afternoon and then sustained winds over 20 miles per hour for most of Friday and a good chunk of Saturday. So we'll have to stay tuned for Kevin Ross weather forecast as we get closer to tee times, but wanted to make sure I mentioned that as a reminder. Potential for a tee time advantage is there this week, but as of the time we're taping this, a little too far out to peg that for sure, and we don't have the pairings yet either. So all right, so let's go into the 6Ks. At least a few more options here than we've seen some other weeks, but Munoz will probably get some traction after a strong week. Aaron Wise made the cut, kind of faded a bit on the weekend, but had a decent week. Mentioned Mito at the top of the show, looked healthy, had a strong week last week. So those are the three guys in here that at least flashed some form a week ago that were showing maybe around 4, 5, 6% ownership. KH Lee, obviously in the field at 6,500 on DraftKings, but who's standing out for you if you're looking for maybe one punt to round out your lineup?
Yeah, I like Mito Pereira a lot. Similar to Zalatorius, in that he's just an excellent ball striker. The short game can be hit or miss, but he's gotten better this year, so I like that. This is his first major, so that'll be interesting to see how he plays. I think the chalk is going to go to Lonto Griffin at 6,300. He's just been a lot better recently. Did struggle a bit on the weekend last week, but still, T51, a lot of talent there. Adam Hadwin's a little bit interesting. He was, I couldn't believe his ownership last week. It was over 20%, I think, in some of the bigger contests. He's at 6,300 if you want to play the bounce back narrative. I think Jonathan Vegas,
he won't get it much ownership because he was a disaster.
He was a disaster, yeah. Vegas, I like Vegas. I'll go back to the well there, play him in my bomber lineups. And then my favorite guy is Robert Mcintyre. He's 8 for 8 in the majors, and he's finished in the top 25% of those majors every time, I believe. So a guy that, he can get it out there, tends to play difficult course as well, just always shows up in these fields. So yeah, I like Bobby May.
All right. I like that call. I think he's a guy that's going to trend as a solid value as we get closer to Thursday. Mito is the guy I'm on as well. Hinted at that at the beginning of the show. Hard to argue. His stats really, really solid. I think you don't necessarily need to get cute down here. Nobody's going to have massive ownership. On this type of course, Keith Mitchell scares me a little bit. Certainly you could play him for some ceiling, but I think I'd take a shot on a Munoz or a Mito or a Griffin before him. So with that, I think we've pretty much gotten through everything. Anything else that we missed?
Can Kuchar gain 12 strokes on and around the green again?
I'm going to say no.
He keeps doing it. It keeps hurting me.
Every week. It's gonna come back to earth this week. Confident. It's gonna come back to earth. All right. With that, I think I don't see any questions in the chat, but good luck, everybody. Build some good lineups. Lots of money to be won in DFS this week, and should be fun. Don't forget, we'll have a Twitter Space show. That's why we moved this to Monday. So we're going to do Twitter Spaces for kind of a Wednesday night update. That could be pretty important. We could have a weather update, a draw advantage by then. We could have some guests on the show. I think Wiley's going to join us on Wednesday for our PGA Twitter Spaces. We'll probably kick that off after MLB Lock on Wednesday night. So Noto and I will be on there, and we'll have some guests, and we'll give some updates for the PGA Championship, say around 7:30 Eastern or so on Wednesday evening. So you can check out our thoughts on that. Get the reminder from the Rotogrinders Twitter account there to join us on Wednesday. So with that, for Steve, thanks to him for producing hard behind the scenes for us. The Cardinals and the Mets postponed their game tonight for reasons unbeknownst to really anyone. The weather forecast did not really offer that much threatening weather, but Steve, our producer, is a big Mets fan. I'm a big Cardinals fan, so we were able to get along tonight with the game being postponed. So thanks to Steve for helping us out as always. Thanks to Noto for joining me as well. Of course, I'm Justin. Good luck with all your lineups. May they fall in your favor this week for the PGA Championship. We'll catch you back here next week with another show. Until then, take care. Good luck, everybody.